The rain hammered the emergency room windows like fists demanding entry. But inside, the world had gone deathly still. Alexander's hand trembled in Mason's, his knuckles white as the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, casting shadows that swallowed the doctor's words whole. "Stage 4, the oncologist said, her voice a flat echo. "And your insurance? They've denied coverage citing a pre-existing condition from 5 years ago. Something buried in your records we never saw coming." Mason stared at the chart in the doctor's hand, the ink blurring into meaningless squiggles under the onslaught of his pulse thundering in his ears. Seattle's relentless downpour outside the Swedish medical center mirrored the storm inside him. A Pacific Northwest deluge that had soaked their wedding vows 3 years back, turning the backyard ceremony into a soggy testament to their stubborn love. Alexander, his Alex, the man who'd traded Wall Street suits for barista aprons just to chase sunsets in the Cascades with him, now lay pale against the starched sheets, his green eyes dulled by the morphine drip already whispering promises it couldn't keep. "We'll appeal," Mason said, his voice cracking like gravel under tires on I-5. He squeezed Alex's hand harder, as if grip alone could anchor them both. The doctor nodded, her clipboard a shield, murmuring about navigators and support groups. But Mason barely heard. Pre-existing condition? It was a goddamn technicality. A routine physical from Alex's old job in New York, flagged for elevated cholesterol that no one had followed up on. They'd moved west for a fresh start, away from the city's grind, building a life in a cozy Queen and Victorian with creaky floors and a view of the Sound that made every rent check feel like a steal. Now this. By midnight, they were home, the apartment a cocoon of damp coats and unspoken dread. Mason brewed chamomile tea in their chipped mugs, the ones from their first road trip to Yellowstone, etched with bison silhouettes, and sat cross-legged on the wool rug, Alex's head in his lap. The city lights flickered through the rain-streaked panes, Elliott Bay a black mirror below. "Remember that storm in 18? Alex murmured, his breath warm against Mason's thigh. "We got caught hiking near Diablo Lake, and you swore you'd build us an ark if it meant keeping us dry." Mason forced a laugh, threading fingers through Alex's auburn curls, now thinning at the temples. "I'd build you a fleet, babe. Hell, I'd sail us to Hawaii." But the words tasted like ash. Alex had been tired lately, brushing it off as long shifts at the indie bookstore in Capitol Hill, where he curated shelves of queer lit and whispered recommendations to wide-eyed teens. Mason, a freelance graphic designer scraping by on remote gigs for Seattle startups, had chalked it up to the seasonal gloom. Now the biopsy results mocked them from the kitchen counter, a stack of papers thicker than their lease agreement. Dawn crept in gray and unforgiving, the Space Needle a skeletal silhouette against the clouds. Mason fielded the first call from Alex's sister, Elena, back in Brooklyn. "What do you mean denied?" she barked over the line, her accent sharp as broken glass. "Those bastards. Dad's policy got screwed like that in 09. You fight it, Maze. For Alex." Elena had never warmed to their marriage, her Catholic guilt a low simmer, but cancer had a way of melting edges. Mason promised updates, then hung up to find Alex scrolling denial letters on his laptop, the blue light carving hollows under his eyes. "We can't afford this out of pocket," Alex said flatly, closing the screen. "Treatments run, what, 200 grand? We're not millionaires." His voice held no accusation, just the quiet math of two men who'd pooled tips and overtime to afford rings from a Capitol Hill jeweler. Mason knelt beside him, pulling him close, the scent of hospital antiseptic clinging like regret. "Then we pivot," Mason whispered, kissing the pulse at Alex's neck. "Crowdfund, grants, whatever it takes. This city's full of fighters. We're not going down without swinging." The days blurred into a triage of appointments. Radiation consults at UW Medicine, nutritionists preaching kale smoothies. A parade of specialists who treated Alex like a puzzle with missing pieces. Mason became the note-taker, the advocate, his sketchpad filled with frantic doodles of chemo timelines and appeal flowcharts. Evenings, they'd walk the locks at Ballard, watching salmon leap against the current. A metaphor too on the nose for Mason's liking. Alex leaned on him there, their linked arms a lifeline, sharing stories of his pre-Mason life. Summers in the Adirondacks, first crushes on camp counselors who never looked back. One night, as fog rolled in off the water, Alex stopped under a dripping cedar. "If this takes me, promise you'll keep drawing those sunsets. The ones that make people believe in tomorrows." Mason's throat closed. "It won't take you. We're us, Alex. Unbreakable." But in the quiet hours after, alone in their bed with Alex's snores a fragile rhythm, Mason wept into the pillow, bargaining with gods he'd long abandoned. The appeal hit a wall 2 weeks in. A form letter from Blue Cross, citing insufficient documentation, with the cold efficiency of a foreclosure notice. Mason slammed the mailbox shut, the clang echoing down their street of craftsman bungalows. Neighbors waved from porches, oblivious to the fracture lines spiderwebbing their world. That afternoon, he dragged Alex to the Pike Place market, forcing normalcy amid the fishmonger's shouts and lavender stalls. They shared a salmon roll, laughing at a busker's falsetto rendition of Tiny Dancer. But Alex's fork trembled, betraying the nausea lurking. Back home, Mason fired off emails to advocacy groups. Lambda Legal, AIDS Legal Services, anyone with queer in the name. A pro bono lawyer named Riley, a butch dyke with a buzzcut and a Rolodex from the 90s, called back that evening. "Pre-existing exclusions are bullshit post-ACA, she growled over speakerphone. "Especially for something this vague. We'll sue if we have to, class action potential here." Alex perked up, the first real spark in weeks. "Like those tobacco suits? David versus Goliath? Seattle edition." Riley chuckled. "Damn right, but it's a marathon, boys. Get your ducks in a row, financials, medical history, love letters if you've got 'em." Love letters. Mason thought of the shoebox under the bed. Postcards from road trips, napkins scrawled with "Marry me anyway?" from their courthouse elopement detour. As Alex dozed on the couch, chemo preview packets splayed across his chest. Mason unearthed them, tracing faded ink like braille for survival. The fight ignited something primal in Mason. A fierce, unyielding protectiveness honed from years of dodging slurs in rural Oregon, where coming out meant shotgun stares from truck stop locals. Alex, the city boy with a poet's heart, balanced him, teaching forgiveness over fury. Together, they'd navigated family holidays. Mason's folks in Portland thawing over rainbow flags at Pride. Elena's passive-aggressive mass invites evolving into teary FaceTimes. But this was war, waged in boardrooms and court dockets, with their vows as ammunition. As autumn leaves turned the streets to fire, Mason started a blog. Not for pity, but purpose. 2 guys, 1 fight. Navigating cancer in the Emerald City. Posts chronicled the absurd. Parking tickets at infusions, the barista who comped lattes after overhearing. Shares trickled in from Capitol Hill allies, then snowballed. Queer dads in Tacoma, trans elders in Spokane. A GoFundMe launched quietly, hitting 5 figures by Halloween. Alex carved pumpkins on the stoop, his knife steady despite the fatigue, whispering, "See, we're conjuring light from gourds." Yet doubt gnawed. Late shifts grading freelance mocks left Mason staring at ceilings, replaying the doctor's aggressive like a curse. What if they lost? What if Alex's laugh faded into echoes? He buried it in routines. Meal preps of quinoa bowls, sunset sketches pinned to the fridge. One evening, as they slow danced to Coltrane in the kitchen, Alex's head on his shoulder, Mason vowed silently, "I'd trade every victory for 1 more year of this." The first betrayal stung subtle, a whisper from the insurance rep on a callback. "Mr. Hale, your partner's policy lapsed during your move. Technically, it's a new enrollment." Alex's last name, Hale, rolled off her tongue like an accusation. Mason gripped the phone, knuckles aching. Lapsed? They'd paid premiums religiously, autopay from their joint account. But digging revealed it. A clerical glitch, their address change lost in the mailroom shuffle. Blue Cross hadn't chased it. They'd waited. A trap sprung. Rage boiled, hot as diner coffee. Mason paced the living room, Alex watching from the armchair, bundled in the Afghan Elena knitted. "It's not just us," Alex said softly. "How many others?" Widowed partners. Denied claims piling up like snowdrifts. That night, Mason drafted a manifesto for the blog. Words pouring like the rain outside. Insurance isn't protection. It's a gatekeeper, deciding who's worthy of tomorrow. Responses flooded. Stories of ghosted appeals. Bankruptcies masked as preventions. A retired nurse from Everett shared scans of her late wife's denial. Pancreatic, same timeline. Mason compiled them, forwarding to Riley. "We've got a pattern," she emailed back. "Discovery phase incoming. Hold tight." Winter loomed, the solstice a black hole. Alex's first round hit like a freight train. Chills racking the bathroom tiles. Mason sponging his brow with prayers unspoken. In the mirror, Mason saw his own hollows. Unshaven jaw, eyes ringed like a raccoon's. But Alex's grip, weak as it was, pulled him back. "You're my anchor, Maze. Don't drift." They didn't. Not then. January's freeze gripped Seattle like a grudge. Icicles daggering the eaves of their Victorian, turning every step treacherous. Mason shoveled the walk at dawn, breath fogging in plumes, while Alex bundled against the draft from their single-pane windows. Upgrades they tabled for someday renovations. Someday had arrived uninvited. A thief in scrubs stealing sleep and savings. The GoFundMe ticked upward. Strangers' dollars a digital quilt. But bills mounted. Co-pays for scans, mileage to Fred Hutch. The organic grocer runs for ginger chews that eased Alex's gut. Riley's office in Pioneer Square smelled of stale coffee and legal briefs. A converted warehouse loft with exposed beams and rainbow flags thumbtacked to cubicles. She spread files across her desk like a war map, highlighters slashing yellow veins through legalese. "Blue Cross is playing hardball," she said, tapping a denial amendment. "They're alleging fraud, claiming you backdated the address change to dodge the lapse." "Bullshit, but it'll drag this out." Mason's stomach nodded. Fraud? They were baristas and designers, not schemers. Alex, sipping water from an Nalgene, met his gaze steady. "Let M come. We've got truth on our side." Truth, Mason thought, was a fragile thing in America, elastic as a politician's promise, bent by fine print and boardroom bonuses. Their case file swelled. Affidavits from Elena swearing to the move date, bank statements proving auto-pay fidelity. Mason spent nights cross-referencing, his MacBook aglow in the dark, Alex asleep beside him with one hand fisted in the duvet. Dreams haunted Mason. Nightmares of empty hospital beds. Alex dissolving like mist over the sound. The community rally came unplanned. A ripple from the blog. A local NPR segment on queer health disparities. Name-checked their story. And suddenly, volunteers appeared. A meal train from the Metropolitan Community Church. Graphic tees silkscreened by Mason's design buddies reading "Deny Us? We'll amplify." Alex, between infusions, mustered energy for a reading at his bookstore. Passages from Fun Home and Call Me by Your Name. His voice a threadbare velvet drawing tears. Afterward, a circle formed in the cafe, hands linked. Survivors, allies, a trans barista who'd lost her policy in transition. "You're heroes," a silver-haired man said, pressing a check into Mason's palm. Heroes. The word chafed. They were just two guys loving hard in a city that preached progress but rationed mercy. That night, over takeout pho steaming the coffee table, Alex raised his bowl like a chalice. To the chorus. "Solo's too damn lonely." Mason clinked spoons, but his mind snagged on the subtext. What if the harmony frayed? Betrayal struck closer to home a week later, in the form of an email from their landlord, Mrs. Kowalski, a widow who'd slipped them the first month's rent after Pride last year. "Boys, hate to say it, but the owners are selling. Eviction notice by March. Market's hot. Can't blame him." Mason read it aloud in the kitchen, the words landing like snowballs. Their haven, with its bay window framing fairies and the clawfoot tub where they'd soaked away bad days. This too? Alex's face crumpled. Not from the news, but the weight. One hit at a time, right? Cancer, then homelessness. American dreams got teeth. They toured apartments that weekend. Mason's arm around Alex's waist for support masked as affection. Belltown high-rises gleamed sterile, rents gouging like scalpels. $2,800 for a shoebox view of nothing. A Capitol Hill walk-up smelled of mildew, the super eyeing them askance. No pets, no drama. As if love were drama. By Sunday, exhaustion won. They curled on the couch, binging The Wire for distraction. Baltimore's grit a pale echo of their own unraveling. Mason's freelance dried up mid-month. A startup client ghosting after layoffs. Tighten belts, his inbox advised. Belts were cinched. Grocery runs skipped organics. Date nights swapped for homebrews. Intimacy shifted too. Not lost, but tender. Hands tracing scars and hopes instead of heat. Alex's humor held, quips about chemo chic and bald caps for St. Patrick's. But Mason saw the toll. Mirrors avoided, shirts buttoned high. Riley called with a breakthrough, deposition scheduled. Their exec sweating. Internal emails leaked showing they knew about the glitch but sat on it. Profit over patience. Elation surged, short-lived. That afternoon, Alex collapsed mid-walk in Discovery Park, knees buckling on the mossy trail. Mason caught him, heart slamming, dialing 911 as joggers blurred past. Dehydration, the ER said, but the scare etched deeper, a reminder of fragility. Nights, Mason lay awake, Alex's breathing a metronome. He thought of their beginning. A rainy first Thursday art walk in 2017, Alex critiquing Mason's exhibit with a grin that cut through the crowd. Bold lines, hidden heart, story of my life. They'd kissed under a gallery awning. Rain sluicing the gutters, the city theirs. Now that city turned indifferent, its veins clogged with bureaucracy. The first deposition loomed, a Friday in a downtown high-rise. Mason prepped Alex with flashcards of dates, but nerves frayed. What if I freeze? Alex fretted, pacing their living room. Mason pulled him down, foreheads touching. You won't. You're the guy who recited Whitman at our rehearsal dinner. This is just poetry with stakes. They arrived early, the lobby a marble echo chamber, suits hurrying like sharks. The Blue Cross lawyer, a slick type in pinstripes, grilled Alex gently at first, timeline of symptoms, policy enrollment, then pivoted sharp. Mr. Hale, isn't it true you delayed reporting the cholesterol flag to avoid premiums? Alex blinked, blindsided. No, I mean it was flagged, but we followed up. Your system lost the update. The lawyer smirked, sliding a printout across the table. An old form, and signed. Forged? Mason's blood iced. Riley objected, but the seed planted doubt. Driving home through slushy streets, silence thick as fog. They twisted it, Alex finally said, voice small. Like we're the villains. Mason gripped the wheel, vowing silently to unearth the truth. That evening, Elena flew in unannounced, suitcase thumping the stoop. Hugs were fierce, her eyes red-rimmed. Over pierogies she'd smuggled, she unloaded. Mom's praying novenas. Says it's a test. Alex rolled his eyes affectionately. Tell her we're acing it. With Elena's help, they packed boxes. Memories folded into newsprint. Photo albums from their Hawaii honeymoon. The quilt from Alex's grandma. A sublet in Fremont materialized. A friend's attic space with slanted ceilings and a hot plate kitchen. Temporary, but theirs. As Elena departed, she pressed a rosary into Alex's palm. For luck, not chains. He tucked it in his pocket, a bridge to the past. February thawed unevenly. Crocuses pushing through mulch in Green Lake Park. Alex's scans showed shrinkage modest, but momentum. Cheers erupted over Zoom with Riley. That's ammo. Keep fighting. Mason sketched a comic strip for the blog. A caped duo battling a dragon labeled Denial. Alex as the witty sidekick. Shares hit thousands, a podcaster inviting them on air. But the second betrayal brewed underground. A tip from an anonymous source, a former Blue Cross clerk, landed in Mason's inbox. Recordings of exec calls, casual as coffee breaks, greenlighting the fraud allegation to stem the tide of appeals. Proof. Riley hooped over the line. Jackpot. We go public. Alex hesitated, weighing exposure against privacy. If it helps others. Mason nodded, stealing for the spotlight. Press releases drafted. A rally planned at California Anderson Park. Spring whispered promises, but winter's bite lingered. Mason catching Alex's cough in the mirror, wondering whose turn next. They pressed on, hands clasped against the chill. March arrived with a vengeance. Cherry blossoms battered by gales that howled through the Chittenden locks, scattering petals like confetti from a ruined party. Their Fremont sublette perched atop a converted garage, the sloped ceiling pressing low like unspoken worries. But the skylight framed stars on clear nights, a small mercy. Alex's treatments intensified, protons zapping tumors at the Proton Center in Bellevue, the commute a gauntlet of traffic and tolls. Mason navigated it all, his Prius a mobile command center. Podcasts on patient rights, protein bars in the glove box, a playlist of Alex's favorites, Springsteen anthems laced with queer undercurrents. The leaked recordings detonated like a flare. Riley filed motions, the press swarming. Seattle Times front page. Gay couples battle exposes insurance underbelly. Reporters camped their stoop. Mics thrust like olive branches laced with poison. Mason fielded them from the doorway, Alex napping inside, his voice steady. This isn't about us. It's about every family blindsided by fine print. Headlines spun romantic. Love versus the ledger. Alex quipped over dinner. Casseroles from church ladies. We're the new rom-com villains. The denial of our lives. The rally at Cal Anderson swelled unexpected. Rainbow banners whipping in the wind. Speeches from activists who'd marched Stonewall. Mason spoke first, throat tight, gripping the podium as if it'd anchor him. 3 years ago, Alex and I stood here at Pride, rings fresh, believing in the promise of this city, this country. Now we're fighting for the air in his lungs. Applause thundered, but his eyes sought Alex in the crowd, seated on a blanket, thinner but smiling, fist raised. A chant rose. Health for all. Deny no more. Backlash slithered in shadows. Trolls infested the blog. Slurs carved in comment sections. Fags faking for funds. Mason moderated ruthlessly, but one cut deep. An anonymous email, time-stamped from a gov domain, hinting at internal review of their taxes. Paranoia bloomed. Was it coincidence or the machine grinding back? Alex shrugged it off over tea, his mug cradled like a talisman. Haters gonna hate, babe. We're the plot twist. Court dates loomed, a pretrial hearing in King County Superior, the courthouse a brutalist fortress downtown. They dressed sharp. Mason in chinos and a blazer from their anniversary sale. Alex in a crisp Oxford that hung looser now. The gallery hummed with allies. Elena, flown in again. Riley's paralegal, a non-binary firebrand named Jordan. Blue Cross's team filed in, a phalanx of suits, their lead counsel avoiding eye contact. The judge, a silver fox with wire rims, scanned the docket. Plaintiffs allege bad faith denial and fraud in documentation. Defendants counter with policy lapses. Testimony unspooled. Alex recounting the move, voice steady despite the cough tickling his throat. Mason followed, detailing autopays, the blog's genesis as advocacy, not grift. Then the recordings, Riley cueing clips on a laptop, exec voices crackling. Bury the appeals. Quarterly targets won't hit themselves. Gasps rippled. The opposing counsel flushed crimson, objecting on hearsay. Overruled. Recess called. Mason led Alex to a bench in the hall, vending machine coffee steaming between them. You're killing it, Mason murmured, thumb tracing Alex's wedding band. Alex leaned in, breath minty. Team effort. Couldn't without my co-pilot. A stolen kiss, chaste but electric, drew stares. But in Seattle, stares were just weather. The afternoon pivoted brutal. Cross-exam unearthed a ghost. Alex's ex from New York, a farmer rep named Derek, subpoenaed as a character witness? No worse. Derek testified via video link, smug in a polo, claiming Alex always cut corners, citing a shared lease fudge from a decade back. He knew how to game systems. Mason's fists balled under the table. Derek, the rebound who'd ghosted after Alex came out fully, the one who'd sneered at their engagement announcement on Facebook. Betrayal, resurrected. Riley shredded it on redirect. Relevance to a 2019 policy lapse? Derek stammered, exposed. The judge adjourned with a bang of gavel, leaning toward summary judgment. Outside, rain slicked the steps. Mason hailed a cab, Alex dozing against his shoulder. Old wounds, Alex mumbled. Derek was yesterday's news. But Mason seethed, vowing to shield him from echoes. Spring unfurled tentative, tulips rioting in the arboretum. Alex's energy waxed. Walks around Green Lake, where dog walkers nodded solidarity. A get-well balloon tangled in a bush like fate's joke. The GoFundMe crested 50 grand, earmarked for a clinical trial at OHSU in Portland, experimental immunotherapy. A Hail Mary Riley endorsed. Beats protons, she said. They road-tripped south, Mason's folks hosting in their Beaverton rancher. Pot roast and bad puns, Dad clapping Alex's back too hard. Mom slipping Mason a check with teary eyes. The trial started hopeful. Alex's markers dipped, side effects manageable. Back in Seattle, community bloomed, book club potlucks at the Sublet, poetry slams where Alex read originals, verses of Marrow and Moxie. Mason illustrated them, zines stapled in basements, whispers of a chapbook deal. Love deepened in margins. Lazy Sundays tracing constellations on ceilings, confessions whispered at 3 a.m. Fears of legacy, dreams deferred. But the counterstroke landed mid-May, a motion from Blue Cross. Countersuit for defamation via the blog. Sensationalizing internal matters harms our brand. Riley laughed it off, slap suit, pure intimidation. But the legal fees loomed, draining the fund. Mason pawned his watch, a graduation gift, hawking it at a pawn shop near Pike. The clerk's pity a sting. Tough times, man. Alex found out, rage-flaring gentle. We share burdens, Maze. No solo sacrifices. The hearing devolved chaotic, protesters chanting outside as they entered. Inside, the judge quashed the countersuit, frivolous, but warned of delays. Justice grinds slow. Alex quipped post-hearing over dim sum, like bad foe. Worth the wait. Laughter bubbled. Fragile. Summer teased with solstice light, but shadows lengthened. Derek's testimony unearthed more. Old emails surfacing, Alex's cholesterol flagged indeed, but dismissed by a doc as lifestyle. Blue Cross spun it as willful omission. Doubt crept. Mason replaying their early days, Alex's fatigue blamed on stress. Had he missed signs? Guilt gnawed. Confessions spilling one dawn over the skylight. If I'd pushed harder. Alex silenced him with fingers to lips. You see me always. That's victory enough. The betrayal crystallized at a fundraiser gala, Lambda's annual. Black tie in a Belltown ballroom. Tuxes starched. Alex radiant under chandeliers despite the wig. Toasts lauded them, but a donor cornered Mason. Heard your partner's history. That ex says he hid meds once. Poison, Derek's venom via whispers. Mason's vision tunneled, excusing himself to the balcony. Puget Sound glittering below like shattered glass. Alex found him, arms encircling from behind. Breathe with me. Wind whipped, carrying fairy horns. People project their crap. We're real. They swayed. A slow dance amid stars, reaffirming vows against the void. Fall beckoned, trial date set for October. Scans glowed stable. Hope, a stubborn weed. October's fury mirrored the courtrooms. Gales stripping maples bare, leaves vortexing Denny Way as Mason Parallel parked their borrowed Subaru outside the courthouse. The trial proper dawned crisp, air electric with anticipation. 6 jurors, a mix of blue-collar grit and tech sheen, filed in solemn. Alex adjusted his tie in the rearview, hazel eyes meeting Mason's in the mirror. Showtime. Ready to dazzle? Mason leaned over, kissing his temple. Always star. Riley opened strong, projections flickering. Emails, recordings, a timeline arrowing from glitch to greed. Blue Cross didn't air. They engineered abandonment. The exec took the stand mid-morning. A VP in bespoke wool, sweat beading under fluorescence. Policy integrity demands vigilance, he intoned, but Cross cracked him. Vigilance or quarterly bonuses? Jurors shifted, pens scratching. Lunch recess found them in a deli off Yesler. Pastrami on rye devoured standing. Normalcy snatched from chaos. Elena texted from the hotel. Praying double time. Kick-ass. Alex's phone buzzed too. A scan reminder, routine now. Mason's hand covered his. One battle at a time. Affection simmered. Unspoken code. Later, in stolen moments, reaffirmation without words. Afternoon testimony dragged. Experts on actuarial tables, how pre-existing clauses disproportionately queer lives, higher chronic rates from stress stigma. A statistician charted it, lines spiking like EKGs. Mason testified last, voice raw. The appeals, the blog's birth from desperation. Alex's hand in his under the table through it all. Love isn't a clause. It's the fine print that matters. Adjournment hummed with murmurs. Outside, media scrummed, flashes popping like gunfire. They ducked into a coffee shop, steam rising from lattes as rain pattered the awning. You were poetry, Alex said, foam on his lip. Mason wiped it, thumb lingering. You're my muse. The defenses turned soured the weak. Derek recalled, in person this time, his smirk a scar. Alex knew the risks. Partied hard, skipped checkups. Lies layered thick, painting Alex reckless. Gasps from the gallery. Riley eviscerated. Jealousy, not facts? Derek flushed, exposed as the jilted ex. His testimony, a vendetta unearthed via discovery. Bitter posts on a defunct forum. But the real gut punch landed Friday. Closing arguments. Opposing counsel spun sympathy. A tragic case, but rules bind us all. Jurors nodded. Mason's heart sank. Riley countered fierce. Rules without humanity are chains. Deliberation began post-weekend. The weight of vice. They escaped to the peninsula. A cabin rental near Dos Ualips. Evergreens whispering. River rushing absolution. No phones, just flannel and fire pits. Hikes meandered trails. Alex's pace slower but sure. Pausing for sketches. Mason capturing his profile against ferns. Lines soft with love. Evenings, stews simmered, stories spun. Alex's childhood forts in upstate woods. Mason's Oregon orchards. First kisses under apple boughs. If we win, Alex murmured by the hearth. Let's plant one. Our tree. Intimacy wove gentle. Baths drawn scented with pine. Bodies aligned in lamplight. Touches mapping futures. No urgency, just presence. Fingers interlaced. Breaths synced. Dawn broke golden. They made love slow, reaffirming amid flannel sheets. Tears salting skin. Whatever comes, Mason whispered. You're my horizon. Back in Seattle, the city pulsed indifferent. Pumpkin spice haze. Halloween prep in Fremont's alleys. The call came Monday, Riley's voice crackling. Mistrial threat, juror bias flagged. One holdout with insurance ties. Devastation crashed. Mason drove to pick up Alex from a shift. The bookstore's bells tinkling hollow. Reset, Alex said, climbing in, hand on Mason's knee. Like a bad draft. Rewrite stronger. Rescheduling loomed November, but cracks widened. A side effect blindsided. Alex's neuropathy flaring, toes numb on cold floors. Physical therapy slotted in alongside grief counseling. Mason attending solo first, unpacking the terror of loss. It's not if, the therapist said, but how you hold it. How, by leaning into each other, dates reclaimed, picnics in volunteer park, conservatory blooms a riot against gray, community anchored. A vigil at the locks. Lanterns floated for denied dreams. Speakers shared. A Latina mom bankrupted by her son's leukemia. A vet iced out post-PTSD. Mason emceed. Alex beside. Their story a beacon. Donations surged. Trial fees covered. A publisher bit on the zine. Echoes of endurance in print. Yet betrayal's echo lingered. Derek's contact info surfaced in hacks. Coordinated? Anonymous tips warned of digging deeper. Unearthing Alex's college psych eval. Depression flagged. Weaponized vulnerability, Riley snarled. Mason shielded. But Alex confronted. No secrets. It was grief, mom's passing. Managed it. Vulnerability bared, they mended tighter, therapy joint now, unpacking closets long shut. Thanksgiving gathered kin. Elena's turkey in the sublet, Zoom toasts with Mason's folks. Laughter laced tears, pie shared with tales of small wins. Alex's hair regrowing in soft fuzz. A freelance gig for Mason designing rally posters. Gratitude's the quiet rebellion, Alex said, carving slices. December dusted, snow rare, the city hushed. Trial reconvened post-holidays, jurors fresh, diverse, earnest. Testimony recycled, but heat built. New whistleblower, a clerk testifying tearful. I processed your claim right. They quashed it upstairs. Exec grilled again, crumbling under why? Metrics. Deliberations stretched days. Seattle's lights a blur from their window. Mason paced, Alex sketched caricatures of the judge as a kindly owl. The verdict dropped New Year's Eve. Liability affirmed, damages awarded, back treatments, punitive slap at Blue Cross. Cheers erupted in the hall, hugs crushing. Outside, fireworks cracked premature. They walked home snow-dusted, arms linked, the sound a silver thread. Victory, Alex breathed, but Mason heard the qualifier. Quiet, hard one. Champagne popped at midnight, toasts to tomorrows. But elation ebbed. Scans loomed January, the war not over. January 2026 thawed the verdict's frost, but Seattle's damp clung, mirroring the limbo of appeals and payouts. The award, $1.2 million, halved by fees, funneled straight to OHSU trials. Alex's regimen shifting to infusions laced with hope. Mason quit freelancing cold, diving full-time into advocacy. A nonprofit seed, Hail Line Defenders, named for Alex's grit. Board meetings in coffee shops, grants chased like fireflies, Lambda seed money. A TEDx slot pitching Love's Ledger. Queer health in the margins. Alex thrived tentative. Bookstore shifts cut, but readings flourished. His chapbook launched at Elliott Bay. Dog-eared copies snapped up by tearful fans. You're a voice now, Mason said, inscribing the first. To my echo, forever. Evenings, they reclaimed the city. Ferry rides to Bainbridge, salt air scouring worries. Hands clasped on decks as Orcus surfaced distant. Yet the betrayal's aftershocks rippled. Derek surfaced. An apology letter, postmarked Brooklyn. Words slick with regret. I lashed out from pain. Forgive. Alex burned it in the sink. Flames dancing blue. Forgiveness is for us, not him. Mason nodded, but therapy unpacked it. Old wounds as teachers, not tyrants. Sessions evolved to couples, laughter punctuating tears, role-playing future fights over chores, not claims. Spring bloomed defiant. Magnolias unfurling in the U District. The nonprofit incorporated. First client, a trans teen denied HRT coverage. Victory swift, precedent set. Media circled. From patients to pioneers. A documentary crew shadowed, capturing Alex's infusions. Mason's whiteboard war rooms. Intimacy deepened in frames. Stolen glances over scripts. Post-shoot walks where fingers laced automatic. Summer solstice marked 3 years wed. A vow renewal at Discovery Park. Circle of friends. Elena officiating in a pantsuit. Wind off the sound carrying petals. Rings exchanged anew. Simple gold warmed by sun. In sickness, in denial. Alex ad-libbed, drawing chuckles. Reception picnic trails. Guitars strumming Wonderwall. Stars pricking twilight. But autumn whispered caution. A shadow on Alex's latest pet. Ambiguity flagged. Not progression, the oncologist hedged. But monitor. Dread coiled. Familiar. Mason's sketches turned abstract. Swirls of storm clouds yielding to light. Advocacy ramped. Capitol Hill testify. Bills drafted for hail clauses. Bans on retroactive denials. Allies multiplied. Senators' aides, union reps. A viral TikTok from a nurse amplifying. Betrayal's final twist came October. Mid-lobby push. Blue Cross lobbyist cornered Mason at a fundraiser. Scotch breath hot. Settle quiet or we drag your husband's history, depression, the ex's claims. Leverage. Rage iced to steel. Mason recorded it discreet, forwarding to Riley. Extortion, she crowed. Leaks orchestrated. Headlines screamed. Insurers' dirty tactics exposed. Stock dipped. Reforms accelerated. Alex's follow-up cleared, benign cyst, relief crashing like waves. They celebrated Farrell. Road trip to Olympic, tent pitched under alders, Esmores charred over embers. Stories swapped in sleeping bags, futures sketched. A house in West Seattle, garden for tomatoes, kids maybe, via surrogacy dreams. Love physicalized gentle. Bodies known by heart, touches reverent, dawn breaking on skin. Winter wrap generous, nonprofit's first gala at the Museum of Flight. Planes overhead a metaphor for ascent. Alex emceed, voice resonant, toasting from turbulence to tailwinds. Bids soared, donors toasting with aviation cocktails. Dance floor claimed later, suits shed for sway. Coltrane again, bodies close, world fading. January's anniversary, 1 year post-verdict. Brought scans pristine, markers textbook. Elena visited, rosary retired to a drawer. Miracles, she conceded, hugging fierce. Mason's folks drove up, orchard apples in tow, family piecing whole. But depth plumbed in quiets. Alex's midnight confessions, fears of recurrence a shadow companion. What if I fade? Mason held him, heartbeat to heartbeat. You shine brighter. We're etched, tattoos on time. Sketches evolved to murals, community walls in Capitol Hill. Murals of intertwined hands defying chains. Spring 2027 saw Hale Act pass State House. Ripples National. Trials funded, stories shared. A podcast series. Abandoned but unbowed. Alex guested, Mason producing their synergy electric. Dates ritualized. Weekly sunsets at Cary Park. City sprawl below a conquered map. Summer heatwave baked the sublet. They house-hunted Ernest, closing on a craftsman in Georgetown. Porch swing, bay window for stars. Move-in day, boxes unpacked to Springsteen. Laughter echoing empty rooms. Autumn harvest. Alex's second book, Essays on Resilience. Launch packed, Mason's forward tear-jerking. He taught me victory's quiet. In grips, in gazes. Signings stretched hours. Fans queuing with tales echoed. Winter solstice bonfire at Golden Gardens. Friends circling flames. Toasts to trials past. Futures bright. Alex pulled Mason aside. Snow flurrying. You turned heartbreak to hearth. My American dream. Kiss sealed, salt-laced, enduring. Yet nuance lingered. Annual scans ritual advocacy endless. Betrayals forged armor, not scars. Derek's silence a footnote. Blue Cross's settlements a whisper. Their love, the true quiet victory. Roots deep, branches wide. Dawn broke over the sound in hues of rose and steel. The Georgetown craftsmen their sentinel against the tide. 2 years post-verdict, the house stood testament. Rambler roof patched. Garden tilled with Alex's hands. Tomatoes ripening defiant. Mason's studio nook overlooked it. Canvases alive with murals commissioned for clinics. Figures linked, storms parting to sun. The nonprofit, now Hale Line National, spanned coasts, hotlines humming, lawyers pro bono, a fellowship for queer med students. Alex's routine normalized. Quarterly checks at Fred Hutch, markers mocking with stability. He consulted part-time at the bookstore, curating resilience reads, shelves bent under memoirs of Moxie. Evenings, he penned op-eds for The Stranger, barbs laced with grace. Healthcare's not charity, it's covenant. Readers wrote back. Letters stacked on the dresser, envelopes from Appalachia to Alaska, echoes of their fight. Mason's art bloomed too. Gallery show at Sam, lines of defiance. Pieces born of docket doodles. Abstracts of appeals, inks bleeding to hope. Opening night, Alex in a velvet blazer, arm-looped Masons, champagne flutes clinking to applause. To the lines that bind, Alex toasted, eyes crinkling. Post-reception, They wandered Pike Place at midnight, stalls shuttered, gulls crying oracle. Family wove tighter. Elena's visits annual, Brooklyn pierogies shipped, her boyfriend, a gentle rabbi, charming with Talmudic quips. Mason's folks retired to a Seahawk View condo, game days raucous with nachos and cheers. Holidays blended. Hanukkah lax with Christmas ham, queer carols remixed profane. Betrayal's ghosts exorcised gradual. Derek's outreach ignored, but a coda, his public mea culpa in a podcast, regrets of the reactive. Alex listened once, then deleted. Closure's internal, he said, weeding the garden, dirt under nails. Therapy tapered, but check-ins lingered. Anniversaries of the denial, marked with walks and wine, toasts to what didn't break us. Summer 2028 scorched, but they escaped to the San Juans, kayaks slicing Salish Sea, orcas breaching clothes. Nights in a driftwood cabin, fireflies mimicking bioluminescence. Love evolved. Mornings tangled lazy, coffee brewed black, plans hatched over maps. A cross-country drive, Route 66 redux, stops at queer landmarks. Stonewall plaques, Harvey Milk murals. Fall foliage framed a milestone. Alex's 5-year scan, bell rung at the center, confetti cannon absurd. Party followed, backyard bash, lantern strung, playlist eclectic. Elena danced with Jordan the paralegal, laughter bubbling. Mason pulled Alex to the porch swing, stars wheeling. Clear, Alex whispered. Mason's reply, a kiss, slow as seasons. Advocacy peaked national. Congressional hearing, Alex testifying in D.C. Mason beside, suits starched. America promises life, liberty. Add health, unhyphenated. Applause thundered. Bills budged. Expansions whispered. Back west, a foundation grant built a clinic in Capitol Hill, sliding scale, queer-led, named Hail Haven. Winter solstice gala at the nonprofit's New Digs. Ballroom borrowed from Memo Pop. Alex keynote, voice resonant. Heartbreak's forge, victory, the blade. Bids soared for art auctions. Mason's pieces centerpiece. Dance closed it. Waltz under lights, bodies synced, world a blur. Spring 2029 whispered permanence. Adoption papers inked. A foster-to-adopt boy named Theo, 6, with freckles and fire. Home study passed, his room painted blue. Bookshelves stocked, murals of adventures. First night, Theo's giggles echoed baths. Bedtime stories tripling voices. 2 dads? He asked, wide-eyed. Alex knelt. One family, endless love. Theo's integration wove magic. Park kicks, Mariners games, his chatter filling silences. Challenges peppered. Schoolyard queries, nightmares from past placements. But unity held. Elena antied fierce, sending Brooklyn bagels. Mason's folks grandparent doting, spoiling with Legos. Summer road trip materialized. Prius packed, Theo buckled. Route 66 eastbound. Stops scripted whimsy. Grand Canyon sunrises, Chicago deep dish, New York stoop sits where Alex proposed anew. Rings slipped under street lamps. Eternity's edit, he quipped. Theo cheered. Ice cream smeared. Fall harvest. Theo's first school play, treehouse built backyard. Alex's book tour national, Mason and Theo tagging along. Readings in indie shops, fan art from kids. A sequel penned. Beyond the docket, family forged. Winter's hush brought reflection. 7th anniversary. Beach bonfire at Alki. Waves lapped. Theo asleep bundled. Flames crackling confessions. You turned abandonment to abundance, Mason said, sand gritting palms. Alex's gaze held galaxies. We did. Quiet American hours. Betrayals? Footprints faded, lessons etched. Blue Cross reformed clauses, precedents rippling. Derek? A distant echo, his story retold in Alex's essays, not villain but mirror. Horizons stretched. Theo's laughter? Clinic expansions. Canvases blank for next strokes. Love, the core, unyielding, luminous. In the end, victory whispered. Not conquest, but continuation. Two men, one boy, a home against the rain. America's quiet anthem, sung soft, sung true.